You have a button, you're going to give it an instance name that the code can refer to. All right, so that's the first thing. That hopefully is not new. And then you want to connect that to the the movie clips. So here's something that's really important about the movie clips. Let's take a look at this movie clip. This is the one that animates, right? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see there, but there's the animation going. All right. So if I right click over here and come down to properties, you'll see that I have a name. This is the name that I gave that movie clip when I first made it. But I have this thing, ActionScript linkage, export for ActionScript. And again, hopefully this is not a concept that will be completely new. I don't know, maybe it will be, maybe it won't, but it's super easy. Just make sure that you click this little button, this little checkbox thing here for export for ActionScript. What it does is that gives this symbol, instance of this symbol, a class name. And this class name is what ActionScript is going to work with. So ActionScript doesn't care what the symbol name is. And this is really critical. It cares what the class name is. And this is super important because if the programmer is working outside of the timeline, the designer, for example, would give the programmer a list of symbols and their class name. And so it's just super important that you do that. So anyhow, that's that. Now let's go ahead and look at the ActionScript itself. And we'll go to frame 1. The whole ActionScript for this one is all incorporated into scene 1. Sorry guys, I had to move something there. And so you could also have this as an external AS file as well. I've decided not to do that because there's just not enough code here to sort of worry about it. But in in games where there's pages and pages, when there's like 8,000 lines of code or something, you want to. It makes sense to package that code, move it outside of the timeline, and then be able to break those packages down into sort of a structure that makes sense. So here we go. So the first thing we're doing here is we're making a variable. So you can recall that you have 3 movie clips. One is called MC1, MC2, and main text. So I'm creating a variable, and that variable is going to hold, that variable is going to be used later on when I ask that button to do something. That button is going to be referring to these variables to do things with. You'll see that in just a second. So anyhow, I'm setting a variable and I'm instantiating MC1. Okay, so I'm saying I want to do that movie clip MC1, and I want to do a new MC1, a new variable, and I'm going to contain that in this variable called M1. Same thing with M2, same thing with MT. So, like here's MT, there it is over here. Sorry guys, I had to move that for a second. There's main text right there, right? And so there, that's that. All right, so the first thing we're doing is we're saying we've got this command or this piece of code called add child. This is really common kind of terminology in scripting languages, particularly like kind of graphical or web scripting languages. You have this concept of parent and child relationships. So in this case, the child that we're calling is MT. That's the variable that we're calling because we want to do something with MT. And so MT is the main text. We're making a new main text to deal with, and then we're coming down here and we're saying, at the beginning, this is kind of like on enter frame, right? So add child MT. MTX is its X location and its Y location in the stage, all right, against the background. Now, so that's pretty straightforward. This is just like, hey, when the thing starts display this. Now, the next thing that we have to deal with are these two things. Play MC1, play MC2. What the heck? What are those things? Really easy. Let's come back to those buttons. I'm going to close this just for a second. If I click on this button and I come up to the properties, I know that this button is referred to as play MC2. This button, this instance of this button, is play MC1. So that's where those names come from. So once you drag it out onto the stage, you have to give it an instance name. All right, that's how one button can be used for for several buttons. So this is play MC1, this is play MC2. So play movie 1, play movie 2. All right, now once we do that, let's go ahead and get our actions window back again, frame 1. So what this guy is doing here, play MC1, this thing called add event listener, this is kind of another standard piece of code in ActionScript. And what this is doing, it's just waiting, listening for something to happen. In this case, it's listening, and I can tell it that the thing it's listening for is a mouse event. What kind of a mouse event? A click. What do you want to do when you click it? I want to do this function called play1, okay? So the function is the thing that actually carries through with what we want to do with, with movie 1, M1, but it requires this this attachment of code to that button essentially. So button MC1, add event listener, start listening. What kind of event? Mouse event. What am I looking for? Click. What am I going to do when it clicks? I'm going to play 1, which is this function. Same thing down here. Play M2. That's the instance of that second button. Add event listener. I'm listening. What kind of an event? A mouse event. What kind of a mouse event? A click. Ooh, I heard the click. What do? I play 2. I do the function play 2. What do the functions do? So the function play 1, okay, I know that this is, if I had this as play 3, for example, and that doesn't match with what I've defined in the button, it's not going to work. So you have to make sure that those are compatible. And obviously all this stuff is case sensitive. You should know that hopefully already. And so what we're doing here, first of all, this is a little check that I put in to make sure that if it, what I don't want to do is I don't want the thing to actually be on the screen before I call it. Okay, and so this is just a little frame script that runs going, hey, if you've played already, stop. Don't, actually it's telling it not to play at all, just stop, be in a stop position. And if it does play, to remove this event listener. Okay, so then we do this add child again, but add child gets called here only after that button gets pressed, clicked. Now, MC alpha is what opacity you want the thing to appear. So it could appear semi-translucent, or full alpha, which is 1.0. The value is full alpha. M1 X and Y is just saying, pixels, X coordinate, Y coordinate, and then the width, and then the scale, right? So when I do M2 scale X, that means scale relative to 602. So that's kind of neat because rather than having to figure out what the Y coordinate is there, what the Y number is, because I am scaling these, it's kind of nice because I can just say, hey, scale this relative to the width of M1. Now, what are these down here? Well, this is MT, okay? So if I'm playing this, I want MT to go to 0 alpha. And I want M2, if M2 happens to be on the screen, I want M2 to go to 0 alpha. All right, so it's the same exact thing down here. Play M2, event listener, what kind of event? Click. Okay. play this function called play2. Function play2, what am I doing? I'm adding a child in this way. Okay, so I won't go any further with that for the general audience, but you folks that are going to be sort of in charge of the ActionScript side of this is going to be pretty important for you guys. So what I'll do for you guys is actually have you bring down the file and kind of play with it. So you'll start probably by doing things like adding another movie clip, for example, and seeing if you can add a new button, you know, and instantiate a new, you know, set up a variable and instantiate a new instance, and then set up a function and have the function do something with the movie clip. All right, well, thank you very much.